Need a little wine? Craving some tea? Well, you've come to the right place. This is a little wine and a whole lot of tea with Chastity.
Hi guys, how are you? Hope y'all have had a good week since the last that we talked. I like to think that these are our little weekly chats. So I've actually had some very reflective conversations lately and thoughts and all the things. So actually over the weekend, I did a sound bath with my mom and my sister-in-law. And for those of you that don't know what a sound bath is, it's basically a series of sounds. How she described it was she has no idea really what she's going to play until she's like in the room. And there was probably about, let me see. They said it was their biggest turnout. And so there was about, I think like 18 or 20 of us in there. And so they had the yoga mats laid out. You had your head, which I didn't realize this, when you like are in a row, if somebody is laying head to feet, then your heads have to be like, then when you lay, your feet can't be facing their head. Your head has to face them and then your feet away from them. And I guess it's like for the reasons of like energy and releasing all of that. And so that was interesting. I didn't know that. And some people had brought crystals to lay next to them and eye masks, and it was basically about an hour. And so the whole point is like to have these vibrations, and they said like it like helps with your equilibrium of everything, just like being able to release tension. And I will have to tell you, like it was kind of like I really enjoyed it. That was the first time I'd ever done it. I've done Reiki a few times, and I have a friend that does that, and she's really good. And I always enjoy doing that. And I was like due for some type of energy cleanse. And so they said in there that like you will need to drink a lot of water and you might feel very tired the next day. And I felt exhausted. I woke up feeling like I had done a workout. I was so swollen, like just inflammation, and I was just tired. I wanted to nap all day. I wanted to sleep. I was just exhausted. And so I basically, then today I woke up, which now it's been like a couple days since I've done it, just like with a ton of anxiety when I first woke up in the morning. And it was like, oh my God, like, what is this? I called my mom. I was like, how are you feeling, dude? Like, I can't, like, I felt so tired yesterday. Was so lethargic, felt like I had done a workout. And then today I just like, my anxiety has been like through the roof. So it only lasted for about a couple hours, maybe, probably like 4 hours. And then I was just drinking a ton of water, but I like felt good. Like I didn't have tension in my back so much. And anyway, I will totally do it again. But as I was doing this, it's like, it kind of puts you like in this meditative state. And so I was trying really hard, like, calm your brain, don't think of anything, just like listen to the sounds. And I felt like at different times I had kind of like dozed off into a sleep, which I had napped before, so I wasn't tired. But I kept having like flashbacks of different things that I have like gone through in my life. And also, like just things that like I was currently going through. And so it was kind of wild because like I then kind of like felt like, oh, stop thinking about things. Like I don't know. I just thought like I was just supposed to like lay there and not have anything to do with anything. But I thought that was really interesting. And my mom said she kind of like had the same thing. And so I don't know, like I felt really good after. And so I was just like then like having a conversation with my friend, about like just like reflection. And I've talked about it a little bit on like another episode where like my therapist and also like something that my mom had read was like talking about go back into a time of your life. And I had done a reading from this lady, and I'm totally blanking on her name right now. But my my good friend Nadia had linked me up with her, and she had done like a spiritual reading, and she's in California. So for any of you that want to do that, she's really, really good. I really enjoy doing it. Um, she talked about like going back into a time where you were like your most confident. And so I talk about like, I feel like when I was like 15, 16 was like my most confident. And when I was talking about my friend or talking to my friend about it, actually earlier today, and I was just saying like, if I could go back, like I'm 38 years old, if I could go back in any time in my life, it would be from the ages like this whole gap, like 13 to 18. So 8th grade to 12th grade. And I know people have different experiences, but I had a really good like high school experience, and like 8th grade was really fun for me. It was like when I was like really deep into like the competitive soccer, and it's where like I kind of met a lot of my friends that I'm like still friends with to this day. It's like the time where like I had even like I remember it's funny, like one guy, he was like my boyfriend for like a week, and I'm still friends with him. And I was just so shy, like when it came to like guys. So it was like, oh, you like me? Like, oh, okay, that's nice. And I'd freak out. But like, I feel like it was like the start of that very innocent, like flirtiness. And nowadays, like I have a lot of middle schoolers that are my clients and high schoolers, and they are not innocent. The way that they talk, the way that they flirt, I was like, holy shit, we were not, well, at least anybody that I was friends with. I know you had like your girls or like guys that you knew were a little bit more on the risque, or like, oh yeah, she's probably having sex or this and that. But for the most part, most people weren't. It was like very innocent and flirty and like holding hands and like or making out or whatever. And so like I really like enjoy I really enjoyed that. And like when I think back onto like I love watching the rom-coms of like one of my favorite like little 3-part movies is To All the Boys I loved. And for those of you that have not seen it, go watch it. She basically like writes these love letters to like people that she had crushes on. So back in like elementary, middle school, high school, her next door neighbor, and like her, like they end up getting sent to these people. And all she wrote this letter, but she like put a stamp on it, put the addresses on it, and she's now having to like relive. But I just love those movies because it's based like she in this time she's in high school, and it just reminds me a lot of just that flirtation in high school, and the like, oh my god, I like this boy but I don't want to tell them, so like I'm gonna go have my friend ask for them, like for me to them. And so then you also just really hope that like your friend doesn't like them either, because then that can get really sticky, which I'm sure has happened to all of us before, where like secretly like your friend starts to flirt with them, and it's like, oh well, they don't like you, they like me, and that kind of bullshit. I didn't have it happen often, but like it definitely had. But I just love like looking back on that time, and I really hope that my daughter has like a good experience. I mean, I hear so much now about the kids, and middle school's hard. Like these kids are ruthless, ruthless. And high school, same thing. Like everyone's trying to be grown. Everyone thinks they're like about that life. And it's like that song, like if you guys remember, like Nuck If You Buck. And I had to explain to my nephew who's in 8th grade. He's like, what does that mean? I'm like, if you're gonna buck, you're gonna come to me, you better throw your fists up. Like he's like, oh my God, auntie. And so I don't know. I just really like was thinking about that, and then just thinking like, what would you tell your younger self? And I feel like it just depends on like different stages in life. Like I felt like the way that I handled like myself or like friends and things like that in middle school and high school, I don't think I would necessarily go back in time and talk to like my high school self or even like my middle school self. I mean, I'm sure like there's different things we can all reflect on and like, oh, maybe I would have done that differently. But I felt like I was always like very true to me and tried to be a good friend and tried to be very inclusive of people. And I do remember like, I guess like one of the things that I would like go back and tell myself is like, I know that a lot of people who know me think that I always speak my mind or I always say how I feel, and that's not entirely true. I have gotten to a point where like now I feel like I'm confident enough to like no matter who the audience is, I can say how I feel, you know, and like not really feel like, oh my God, is somebody going to say something, especially more nowadays within the last year and a half, if I'm being honest. But like back then, especially when it came to boys and friends and those kinds of situations, I like never really stuck up for myself. And I remember there was this one incident where I was in eighth grade, and there is this guy who we grew up playing soccer together, and he was like my all-time favorite crush. And a lot of you would know who he is, for those of you that listen that are from my hometown. So we're gonna remain him nameless. But if you want to ask, then DM me and I will totally tell you. But he was definitely very much a little bit of like a womanizer. And so at the time, I didn't realize, because it was me and my good friend, he was like flirting with both of us, which like he flirted with everybody. So like that wasn't like, I knew that. But he was playing both of us against each other, kind of. And so I will never forget. Here I am in eighth grade. And it's so funny because this song came up. I took my nephew shopping, and Ludacris, What's Your Fantasy, came on. And I was like, oh my God, this song literally was being played at my eighth grade birthday party. And I will never forget that this guy, we're sitting across from each other. I think my mom had done like a bonfire or whatever, and he's singing these lyrics to me. And I like look back now that I was like, I had never even kissed anybody in eighth grade. I didn't have my first kiss till I was 16. Okay. And I'm just like, I know what these lyrics are about. And this boy that I have the biggest crush on is across from me singing this song to me. And you're just like, and my nephew, when he heard it over the weekend and I'm singing it, I'm messing with him, and he's like, oh my God, Auntie. And I was like, dude, this was the jam. Ludacris, What's Your Fantasy? Like, we were singing that shit at 13. And so I remember after my birthday party, he ends up calling me, and he basically like wanted me to like roll over my friend in order to be with him. And I was like, here's the thing. Of course, back then I was like all about like friends and girls, and like we're going to be friends forever. And like, little do you know that like you learn real quick that a lot of people, especially girls, are not your friend. And so I was like, I'm not willing to fight over a guy. And I'm still like that to this day. And so I was like, if that's what you want, like that's on you, but I'm not going to fight for this. Like, I don't want to lose a friend. And this gets even funnier. So he ends up going and making her his girlfriend, which sucked because me and her were like best friends at the time. And so like now I became third wheel to somebody that I really liked, but it wasn't going to lose my quote unquote friendship over, which she didn't give two fucks if she lost my friendship. She was like, I'm having this one. And I just look back like, what? So then I remember he three-way called with my mom because I was grounded. Okay. No, they didn't want to talk to me. They wanted to talk to my mom. And so he specifically wanted to let my mom know that he's now going to date my friend and that he's going to treat her really well. My mom's like, to be honest with you, I actually don't really care. As long as you don't date my daughter, we're good. And he was so shocked, didn't know what to say. But I'm also like, we were in eighth grade and you're calling my mom to let her know that you let me down easy? Like, what? And so at that time, like, of course, like we would go to football games. And like I said, I was the third wheel until I no longer wanted to be the third wheel. And it took me a really long time to stick up for myself because I would put myself And actually, I think I did this for a lot of years. I would put myself in situations just because, like, I didn't want to have, like, FOMO. FOMO was a thing for me. I mean, to this day, it's getting a little bit better, but I'd be like, I really don't want to go this because I was like breaking my own little like 14-year-old heart at the time over and over and over again, just for the sake of not being home, just so I knew what was happening, even if it was happening in front of me. And so I think like if I were to go back in that time and just say like, Chastity, like, what is wrong with you? You didn't need to put yourself in situations that genuinely would make you feel bad. And I think I carried that on also into my 20s where because like I just didn't want to be home because I was such a people's person that it did not matter who I was with, what I was doing. I just wanted to be a part of it, even if it was something that made me feel bad. And so I definitely have to say, like, I still kind of go through a little bit of that FOMO. But now I just look at things like, you know what, what's meant for you is meant for you and what's not is not. And so even like with people, if they're meant to be my friend, then they're meant to be my friend. And if they're not, then I'm just like, all right, I just still continue to be me and do me. And like, I'm never going to allow somebody to change who I am. I think that's been one of the biggest like reflections because there's plenty of times where like people hurt you or people make you upset and like, you know, what they say, like, take you out of character. And for me, I'm always going to be who I am and be confident in the fact that, like, no matter what my situation is and no matter what I've gone through, and no matter how shitty that person is to me, I am going to still remain me and still do what I would normally do. Now, I am a little bit of a harder shell, especially these days. Um, you know, because I've been done a little dirty, especially more recently. And like I have been telling you all on Instagram, like there's still more to come regarding, you know, episode 4. For those of you who have not listened, go take a listen. There's a whole thing that's happening that I can't really like disclose at the moment, but it has caused me to have a little bit of, I shouldn't even say little, a huge wall where now I'm just like, I'm assuming that everybody's just full of shit, which is not a good place to be. So I'm trying that. But anyway, those are those reflections. And so I do have to say that the younger me would definitely be proud of like me sticking up for myself more today than I ever have. I was actually telling a friend earlier just that same thing. Like, I have never stuck up for myself. And like I said, I think people have different definitions of sticking up for themselves. And I think that a lot of people also understand how I am in a lot of aspects. I have to be in a very comfortable situation for me to fully 100% be me. So like a lot of my childhood friends who I am hardcore, like they know me, they know my deepest, darkest secrets, all of that. They like would get 100% chastity. Now there's other people and you put different people on different shelves. And so just because I'm an open book does not mean that have given my 1000% of myself to you. And I think people misunderstand that. And so I just feel like through a lot of the things, this is the first time I feel in my life that I am sticking up for myself and what I feel is right and justice for myself. And in any platform, any experience, and there's a lot of people who won't do that. There's a lot of people who don't fight for themselves. There's a lot of people who stay like honed into their like own little like shell. And for me, I'm like, no, like you say how you feel. I mean, obviously we have to be very cautious, but I don't know. I just think that I don't ever, excuse me, ever want to go with things left unsaid, cards not turned over. And I feel like I can go back and reflect on certain things in my life, even at 13, where I'm like, man, like, and I'm sure we all have that. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have said that. I wish I would have stuck up for myself, like in this situation. And you don't. And, for me at this point in my life, I don't want to have regrets of not feeling good about how I handle things. And we all have to be okay with how we handle things, right? And so I had a couple people, which I think we can all identify with a lot of different things. And that's why we talk about a lot of stuff too. And so I had somebody write in who, one of the things, because I asked, like, what is something that you would tell your younger self, or what is your most memorable moments and things like that. And so one of them was that this listener wrote in and said, not let my shyness take control of my life. Because even at 32, I am still dealing with it and I absolutely hate it. And I think that's hard. I'm not shy, but I do have certain situations where I think I'm more uncomfortable, but I wear it better. And so I can't really identify with the very introverted, the very anxious ridden. I think I'm just like diarrhea of the mouth, and everything that I say and everything that I do, I like exude all of it. And that just makes, like, our personalities are very different. And so I can't imagine not doing things because I'm too shy to do it. Like, I feel for people who are like that, because I'm more of like, oh, I don't necessarily want to like go sit at a dinner table by myself or things like that. Now I have before, so I wouldn't let shyness. I mean, I've even gone to a concert by myself before. That was a little odd, to be quite honest with you. I didn't love that. I can do a movie, I can do dinner. I'm not a coffee person, so I can't do that. I guess tea maybe. But concert was very like, ugh, I don't love this, because like, I don't know, I like to dance and like engage with people. And so I like, I don't even have like advice to give that person, because for me, like, I think you just have to figure out like what are you so anxious about? What are you so shy about? Or maybe find that thing or someone that makes you feel comfortable enough to maybe like experience things and make you feel a little bit better about the situation. But I know that's hard also. I had somebody else who, which this one was interesting. I would tell myself, acquire currency, disregard women, invest in Apple. So I'm like, oh, well, that's a good one. I guess investing in like things, I wish that like we would get like, back when we were younger, we would have gotten more information on like just like a life, like what to go to. Like, nobody gives you a playbook for really anything. We're all on our fucking own. We all have to figure it out. I say all the time, like, we all have journeys, we all have roads we have to walk, right? But like sometimes I'm like, God, can you please just tell me which road I'm supposed to take? Because it would just make things so much easier. Because like I'm feeling like a little 50-50 about this. And please don't throw in another option, because now I'm totally fucked and now I have no idea where to go and I don't want a fork in the road. And it's like, I get that we all have things that we need to work through and learn and travel the way that we want to travel. But sometimes when there's too many options, we have no idea. And so, yeah, I was laughing though at the disregard women, because I also feel like it can go hand in hand where I'm like, disregard men. And it's actually funny because I did that for quite a while. Like in high school, I was not the person that had like I had a couple boyfriends, but they were not like long term. Like my first boyfriend was literally a month. Like I said, I was sweet 16 and never been kissed. I got kissed on my 16th birthday. Um and that was a month. We always joke because we're still friends. And I'm always like, you were my first kiss, but also my first boy who cheated on me. So that's fun. You know? And so like we just joke all the time because we stayed friends. But like I said, we only dated a month. So it wasn't anything crazy. Then I had another boyfriend after that, and that was like a summer thing. So maybe like 2-3 months. I can't remember exactly. And then after that, like I had like another boyfriend like my junior year, I want to say, and that was brief. It was a guy I was in high school with. He was very brief. And then I had like he was a senior. Well, both of them actually were. Like the senior boy wanted to date me, and then another one like same thing. Like he was also a player, which is funny. Cuz like I remember I went on a double date with like one of the other girls I played soccer with. She was dating this one guy and then I was dating his friend. So we went to the movies and then he did football. So like one of the times he was like, "Hey, like can you hang out? Like I'll pick you up after football." And I was like, "All right." So he picks me up and we go back to his house. And this is another thing I would tell myself, you guys, is listen to your fucking intuition, which I'm still at 30 or 38 years old struggling with that bitch because she's right every fucking time and I just don't listen to her. And so we pull up and there's literally a teddy bear sitting at his front door and with a card. And so of course I pick it up because I'm fucking chismosa and I pick it up and I go to open it. He's like, "Please don't open that." And this is where I did not stick up for myself because any other crazy bitch would have been like, "Fuck you, I'm opening this." And because I was like technically officially his girlfriend at this point, he had asked me to be his girlfriend, whatever. And I'm like, "Well, who is it from?" He's like, "I don't know. I don't know." And he was acting like super sketchy. Now, here's the fucked up part about this is the girl that we went on the double date with, which played on the varsity soccer team with me, it was her best friend is the one who sent him this. Now, she knew that we were dating. And I was like, "What?" So this is where this is why I didn't have boyfriends in high school because this kind of shit would happen. I'd be like, "I don't want to deal with this." And so I just will never forget. And it's funny because the boy that I'm talking about with this story, I don't know if he's listened to any of these podcasts. He follows along. So if you're out there and you hear this, don't make me shout you out. And I don't even know if he remembers it. He might remember this part because when you're young, it's like breakups are dumb. How you ask to be each other's boyfriend, girlfriend are dumb. And I remember he worked at a local pizza place and we had not spoken. Okay. That whole thing happened. I didn't talk to him. He didn't talk to me. I assumed we were not together. Well, me and my friends ended up going to the pizza place that he worked at. I didn't even know that he worked there, to be honest. And he was in the kitchen and one of the guys came out and wanted to let me know that he said that we're broken up. And I was like, "Okay, thank you. Like, do I at least get like a discount on my pizza or like a free like cheesy bread?" Like, what? And so if you're out there listening, please DM me and see if you remember how this even went down because it's funny like how we remember certain things. Like I have like a friend who always tell me like, "God, like you have a memory of an elephant." Like I don't know. I just remember obviously there's a lot of things that create core memories. That's why I love that movie Inside Out, just because like it's so true of how your brain works. And there's so many things that I do remember. And so that one thing I was like, well, never had I ever been broken up at a pizza place by a coworker. That's fun. And it was funny. Like I said, we only dated like, I don't even think like, I think we only hung out twice. It wasn't even anything crazy. And then, his girlfriend after that was someone in my grade who she hated me, literally hated me. And I was like, "Why do you not like, I literally dated him for like a month, if that. We hung out twice. And like, he was over there talking to another girl. So I don't even know why you're mad at me." And she actually didn't like me up until we had a class our senior year. And then I don't know, she decided I was cool, I guess. And we ended up getting along and became friends. And so that was kind of interesting that you didn't like me because we dated the same boy. But girl, you dated him way longer than me, so I don't know why you're mad at me. And but that used to happen to me all the time. Like that's another thing. Like I always had I wouldn't even know. Like um it's one of the biggest things that I had, which is funny because I always say that like I was never like the I was never the chosen girl. Like I was never somebody's number one, but I was always that girl that guys like to make their girlfriends jealous. But not until I would like have somebody coming to try to fight me and I'd be like, "Wait a minute, I didn't even do anything." Well, my boyfriend said that he thinks you're pretty. I was like, "Okay, who's your boyfriend? I don't even know who that is." And so that would happen to me all the time. Um I always like in high school, like that's when there was another girl who we ended up working at a salon together and she didn't even remember. She tried to fight me at a house party. I didn't even know who she was. I didn't even know who her boyfriend was. Then when she told me who the boyfriend was, I was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know who he is. Oh my God, he always talks about you and he always talks about how beautiful you are." And I was like, "Why? Like we had one class together. I don't even talk to him." And so then when I had told her, I was like, when we worked together at a salon, it was like one of the first salons I had worked when I got out of like my internship. And I saw her and I was like, "Oh shit." And I told my mom, "Remember that house party I told you about? And like the girl tried to fight me." I was like, "I'm working with her." I was like, "But she looks completely different." And so she was like, "Are you going to say something?" I'm like, "Yeah." So then she starts talking to me and she goes, "You look so familiar." And I said, "Yeah, you tried to fight me." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah. Remember your boyfriend?" Which was now her oldest's dad. She was like, "Stop. What did I say?" I was like, "I don't know. I guess he told you like he thought I was pretty and you got mad because I guess you guys fought all the time. I don't know. I showed up to the party. Next thing I knew, I had to leave because you and your friends were going to try to fight me." She was like, "I am so sorry." I'm like, I mean, whatever. It's fine. I just don't know why that always used to happen. But I like looking back on like high school days. I don't know about you guys. Like, I just hope like my daughter has like fun like a fun experience. I know kids are so different and kids are mean. Like I don't remember us like picking on each other because like within our friend group. I feel like there's so many groups now that I hear these middle schoolers and high schools. These girls are not friends. They are frenemies. Like these friends of theirs are like worse than your fucking enemy. And I had a very small group. And of course, we always had our one like where we would like pick on each other or like we'd fight like we were sisters. But I feel like deep down, we all still like loved each other and had each other's back. And like we didn't make fun of each other because like they didn't go buy the brand new like DC shoes or like, back in the day, Hollister was big, which it's funny because my nephew wanted to go to Hollister. I was like, "Dang, Hollister's back." But now I was like, "Oh, but Hollister kind of has some big girl sizes now." Like back then, like my freaking boobs were too big. I couldn't even fit into a Hollister shirt. But also, I wasn't gonna buy like a wife beater looking tank top with this like tiny little seagull at the very bottom, and that shit's $40. Like what? For what? And so I had friend like in my friend group, like we had our one friend who literally she pretty much shopped at Hollister or Abercrombie, or we'd shop at these little like Asian like boutiques. And like I pretty much shopped there or like Charlotte Russe or Forever 21. And then my other friend, like she would kind of like fluctuate with those two. Or like some of our friends would shop at the skater shop. Like it was really big then, being from SoCal. And so none of us like said anything to each other though. Like we might be like, "Oh, those are cute. Like where'd you get that?" Or like, "Oh, I like that." Like we all kind of dress similar, but like then we didn't. And so nobody made fun of each other. At least like not that I could remember. I mean, then you had your rich kids who like they shopped at Nordstrom Rack. And I remember I had this friend, she like had a tag on her skirt. And I'm like, "Oh girl, let me get your tag." She's all, "Do not pull it off." I'm like, "What?" And she's like, girl, she's like, I literally like I wear it once and then I take it back and like I return it for something else. And so she would fluctuate. And I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, like so she would still get new clothes, but like never wear the same thing. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's just too much work. I can't do that. But I don't know. I don't remember anybody being mean like to each other. And you look at the looks back then where it's like, not always the greatest or like the hairstyles or whatever. And I just feel like girls now, like everybody wants to look the same. They're all in Lululemon or like Aerie and all the athleisure wear and like all this stuff. And I just, be you. Like, why do you want to look like everybody else? Right? Like, my style changes even now. Like, I remember I had one guy, I was on like one of the dating apps, which I did deactivate for a while. And then, like, don't judge me, but I reactivated Facebook dating. Don't ask me why. I'm probably going to like be disappointed anyway. And so, whatever. That's just where we're at. I decided to go back to hell, is basically what's happening. So, anyway, this guy asked me like, what's your style? And I was like, honestly, like, it depends. Like currently, for those that aren't watching the video, I am literally in my 8 years this year that I've been in Tennessee. And I have my first hunting camo sweatshirt. And I told my friend the other day, I was like, now I just need my Bass Pro Shop hat. And she was like, stop. And I'm like, I don't know. I really liked this sweatshirt. But I actually got this sweatshirt at Hollister. So that's funny. But it just depends. Like, I also, when I was at the mall buying this shirt, I got like an oversized Dr. Dre t-shirt. And I'll wear that with some cargo pants and like some like Nikes or Adidas or whatever. But then I have like my nicer clothes or like the bodysuit stuff. And so like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just very all over the board. Everyone always jokes, especially like my clients and stuff that are from here. They're like, yeah, you definitely are very California, very West Coast. So, I just got to stay true to myself. But yeah, I don't know what that is about the kids nowadays. It's kind of crazy. And then I go back to like, what would I tell my 20-year-old self? Now in my 20s, for majority of it, I was in a long-term relationship. And I think what I would tell myself in my 20s is don't take anybody's shit, as in the relationship you're in, that you are worth the good. You are worthy of healthy love. You are worthy of respect. You are worthy of someone picking you and only you. And, I'm so not into this culture of, I just had this conversation with somebody because somebody posted on this Facebook group that I'm in, and she was upset about her marriage, and it sounded very similar to mine. Like they got pregnant early on, and like but like she's like, he's a good provider, he's a good dad, but like doesn't want to do anything that I want to do. And I feel like a lot of us can probably really reflect on that and like identify with that. And this one lady goes on there and was like, you need to open your marriage. And like, you can have what they called it, like your life partner. You can have your life partner, and then you can have your other partner that basically does for you what your life partner doesn't do. And I'm just like, for me, I would rather be by myself, struggling in the dating world like I am. I feel like if I were to do something like that, I would feel more empty than if I didn't do it. Because, like, first of all, we all know, and no matter what, whether it's a job, friendship, relationship, marriage, whatever that looks like, there is not one person who can fulfill you 100%. And I've talked to even my friends or clients who've been married a long time. And it's like, when you sit and really reflect, that partner or that friend cannot be what you need like 100%, 1000%, however you want to look at it. But that's okay, because then you go and look at like, well, what are important to you? If you could take 10 things, or let's just make it easy, 5. You have 5 important values or whatever that you, from a friendship, from a relationship, from a job, and that person or that thing or that job is not going to check off all 5, but like, what's your top 3? Like, what's going to like really fulfill you where, okay, I can put these other on the back burner. I just feel like now everybody wants instant gratification. They want that person to make them happy, which is why you have all these young kids too. What do they call them? I just learned that like someone who, which it kind of makes sense though, like someone who just kind of goes from like person to person, little hoe, whatever, they call them a bop, which I was like, oh, okay. They kind of like bopping around. I was like, okay, I like that. But that's why everybody is doing this. And I feel like back when I was like in my 20s or in high school, and now we still dealt with a lot of like shit, because I think you're still learning how to have healthy relationships and not be disrespectful to each other or whatever, right? But to me, I'm just like, why are we saying like, oh, well, this person doesn't fulfill you? Well, then let's bring into the conversation like, hey, are you okay if I go and like have a boyfriend as well as you? Because, you know, you don't want to do X, Y, and Z with me, or you don't fulfill me in all of these ways. So, like, then I can find this person who like is picking up the slack for you. Like, is that okay? I'm like, let's all say that together and see how much fucking sense it makes. And I get that there are people who are doing it, and I try not to judge or shame or anything like that. For me, I really love the psychology of a lot of things, and especially what I've gone through in the last year and a half. Like it really makes me want to go back to school for psychology. And I tell my therapist this all the time, but like it really makes me want to learn like how people operate. And I just feel like, let's think about this, and let's think that how like one relationship is already hard, right? So then now like you split yourself up into 2. And how are you going to still be okay in this relationship, but then also in this relationship? And like somewhere it's going to lack. But I feel like because your life partner is more of like the serious things, like you have your kids, you have your mortgage, you have your things, like the more important, right? And then you have like your side piece, essentially, even though your husband or wife okayed it, you still have this where that's more fun. There's less responsibility. There's this and this. So what are you going to shift to? Let's be real. Most of us don't want the responsibility or the important and things like that. So 9 times out of 10, we're all going to shift to like the least responsibility of things. So eventually, I don't care who you are. You could say we did this for a month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever. Every single person that I have talked to who has done this, even if they have tried it, doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. Because it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to happen. And maybe some people, I guess it does work for them, but I don't know how you can do that long term and still remain in a healthy space with either person or both, or even just in your life altogether. That is too many things that we have to juggle, in my opinion. It's already hard enough to juggle your relationship, your main relationship. If you have kids, your relationship with your kids. Now there's your job, this and that. Like, I don't know. Like, why do we make life so difficult? Why do things have to be so hard? Maybe that's another thing we should reflect on. Like, why do we make life so much more harder than it really needs to be? But I don't know. These have just been the thoughts that have been going into my mind. But I have to say, sometimes like I kind of like, when I go to bed at night, and there's a lot of people who dream and don't remember. I have quite a bit of dreams that I do remember. And I'm always like, can I just like in my dream go back to like one of the times that like made me feel young and less responsibility and just happy? Like I said, I always go back to my high school days. And I love that I can say that, because there's not a lot of people who can say that. And I really enjoyed like that time. I enjoyed who I was. I felt like I was still very much me, who I am, but definitely not as jaded. Um, I didn't deal with men specifically, their bullshit and what they bring to the table or lack thereof. I was not easily manipulated. I did not give in to peer pressure, and I'm still really good about that. For me, I'm just like, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. And I just still like enjoyed, and I was in my mind like, I was always that person that like, let's just have fun, let's have a good time. I was always like joking, and I don't know, like I just felt like I actually have it was one of my relationships, and he does listen. And so I had told him, we still catch up and talk and pretty often, and um we I always joke, I was like, he was like Grease, like that summer fling, right? Not in a negative way. I don't mean fling in like a bad way, but he has always been a very supportive friend, and I feel like he always sees the good in me that I can't see myself, and so I can appreciate that 1000%, and I love him for that. Um and it was funny because he had sent me this like reel, and it was all these like really positive things about like self-care and what you do, and he's like, I really feel like you do all of these things. And I was like, you know what I love the most is that you think that I'm so much kinder to myself than I actually am. And thank you for thinking these like really nice things about me. But in actuality, my brain doesn't even go there. My mind doesn't even go there. And so the fact that this person can see this like light and this like great person, but I feel like because he knew me so well in high school, and that's always the time that I reflect the most on, is that time frame where he saw the beauty in that person who was, I shouldn't say carefree, but I hadn't hit all this jadedness and all of these things that I had gone through, and this darkness and the relationships I went through after and things that I put myself through. And so I've been trying really hard through therapy and all the things that I do to get back to that light. And especially when he reminds me of like, he'll say, I always knew you were great. And to me it's just so nice when people recognize that. And so I want to like have his eyes as he sees me. And so I think that's definitely one of the biggest things that I've really, really, really tried hard to work on these last couple years, is like getting back to that person. And so I encourage all of you to really, really, really dig deep. And that's what I learned in that, when I did that spiritual reading, of where she said, like, go back to the time where like you felt your most confident. And so I think we could all do that and go back to who we were at that time and start to heal all of those things that happened after that, and just really dig in and just know that it is so good to reflect. It is so good to bring up past things that hurt you, and to really now as an adult or whatever age you are, whenever it happened, is to like, you don't have to necessarily relive it, but in order for you to fully heal and get over that, is like, we have to talk about it. We have to sit in it. We have to talk about it. So that's why like I try like all the like I try all the things, and people may think I'm contradicting. I go to church, I pray, I do Reiki, I did a sound bath, which, everyone's like, oh, that woo woo stuff, like whatever. But I don't know. I just feel like they've been doing that shit for centuries. There's a lot of like indigenous and things that go into it, and a lot of different countries that do all these different things. And so I love, like, I'm like, whatever is going to help my energy, then that's what I'm going to do. And so once again, I encourage all of you to just go back into that time that made you feel the best. and sit in that and figure out how to get back there, because that is the only way that we are going to get back to who we are as a core. And I just think that's amazing. And so I loved this reflection, and this is what's been going through my mind for the past week. And I just love to sit in it. I love to reminisce. I love to have these kinds of conversations. And I think you all should do it too. It's okay to talk about what happened when you were 10, 12, 15, 20, whatever that looks like. Those are memories, whether they're good or bad or whatever they look like. Like I said, it's like that movie Inside Out and for Disney. If you haven't seen it, we have all these core memories and they're there for a reason. And so just work through it, guys. And try to get back to your happiness. Like I said, I am you. I hear you. I see you. I feel you. Just doing this thing called life one day at a time. And you got this. I believe in all of you. And I think that let's just keep talking about the tea because I love it all. So anyway, until next time, I love you guys. Pinkies up, besties. Bye.
Well, that's the tea, besties. Pinkies up!